Last week I told you I have 75 board games. Well, I do. And in fact, that number just went up. My friend Chris just bought me a couple of copies of Timeline. So now I'm up to 76 and maybe more. But that's just kind of the thing. People that I play with, they know I love board games. And my family knows I love board games. And they give me board games as gifts. So I've kind of got a built-in thing for getting more games. But that's what I wanted to talk to you about this week, is how can I start a board game hobby, or as my wife calls it, an addiction. You might be new to this whole board gaming thing. Maybe you're an old video gamer like I was, and you've decided to maybe move up to something new. Well, this is great. It's a great time to be involved in board games. Board games are going through a renaissance of design that's very similar to what's going on in our new golden age of television. There are TV shows on right now that would never have gotten produced 10 years ago. The same is true for board games. There are board games like Pandemic Legacy and Time Stories that are serialized. This is actually subtitled Season 1. There are elements in this game, characters, mechanics, even victory conditions and rules that change as you play this game. So it's fantastic to be a gamer right now. But I can understand why some of this may seem a little overwhelming for you if you're trying to get into the hobby right now. So what I'd like to do is go through what do you actually need. First, you're going to need one of these. Now, I am playing with your mind a little bit right here. This is a phenomenon known as apophenia. This is the human ability or tendency to try to create meaning out of random data. Honestly, this is 3 circles in a line. You see it as a face, and your brain is kind of programmed to do that. I showed it to my daughter, and she said, alien? And again, it's the same kind of concept. But what I'm getting at here is that you need another person, at least one, because most of the board games that are out there require, at minimum, 2 people. And 2 is great. There's a lot of fantastic games for 2 players. Memoir 44 is probably one of the best 2-player games on the market. You could sink years into this game. And if that doesn't work for you, the other best game on the market for 2 players, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. This game will blow you away. It's amazing what's actually in here. But I'm telling you that you need a little bit more. Most board games will go from 2 to 4 players, so you really need to attract 3 friends. And you know, it seems like that would be the easiest part of what I'm trying to tell you to do, that you need to start to get a board game thing going, is playing with other people. It's not. It's actually the hardest part of this hobby. Why is that?
They're for nerds.
I still wonder why people say that. I mean, really, most people you encounter have played board games. At minimum, they've played Monopoly. They've played Clue. They played Risk, Stratego, Battleship, even Chutes and Ladders. And you know, that could be part of the problem. Those games are so old, and people have bad memories associated with those games. Board games have advanced light years ahead of Clue and Monopoly. But everybody has played these, and somehow this has become the national gold standard for games. But everybody's played them. So I don't get it. Why do they say only nerds play board games? Can we get that out of the way? More than nerds play board games. In fact, board games appeal to a wide variety of personality types. Speaking of personalities, I want to tell you about the types of personalities you might encounter in a gaming group. And I'm using, again, permit me to be very general here. These are very general personality types. They come from the core personalities, CORE, which stands for commander, organizer, relator, and entertainer.
Commanders, you know who you are. Ambitious, focused, task-oriented.
In fact, most commanders will come off as kind of bossy and telling everybody what to do in games. But they love their work, and they tend to view leisure time as a waste of time. Each of these personality types will have either contributing behaviors to the group or contaminating behaviors to the group. A commander who's contaminating is going to take over. They're going to dominate the game, and they're going to play it like they're the only person playing. So if you play a game like Forbidden Desert, cooperative games, or even Pandemic Legacy, if you play this with a commander, you'll think you're not even playing the game. You're just taking orders from some bossy gamer. So that's their contaminating behaviors. They do have contributing behaviors. They contribute by being the leaders. They're great in RPGs because they're willing to take charge and they're willing to take risk, which can make for some very exciting gameplay. So they are fun to have in a group if you can get them to play at all. Next up, organizers. Organizers are going to wait for me to describe the other two character types, and then they're going to find out where they fit simply by the process of elimination. Organizers like rules. They love the rules. In fact, they've read the rules and they've memorized them. And that's sort of how they're going to contaminate the gaming group. They are what you call rules police. They're going to stop the game, and if they think maybe you forgot to reset your health counter 2 moves ago, yep, we're going to go back and we're going to fix that. But they can also be contributing to the game group because they understand all these really complex systems. And they can help you understand. They make sure everybody's playing fair and by the rules. They tend to like games where you do get to organize things like Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride lets you organize your hand of cards, and it also lets you lay out trains on a map and put them in a very specific order. So they love those. They also love games that we call Euro games. This is the closest I've got to a Euro game, 5 Tribes. Euro games are basically miniature economic simulators where you collect, collate, and categorize little wooden bits. And otherwise, that's called organizer heaven. Oh, hi. Now we're going to talk about relators. And it's kind of cool to talk about relators because that's me. We really don't care what label we have on us as long as we get to be part of the group. And when it comes to games, we really don't care if we win or lose. We just enjoy playing with people. But that does bring me to why we can be contaminating to a group. Because, well, we don't like aggressive games and we don't like aggressive players. So we'll intentionally lose just so you have fun. Playing an aggressive game with a relator is like trying to kickbox a pillow. So not a lot of fun on that front. But if you do like playing with relators, they're going to go toward games where they get to talk a lot. Spyfall is a great game like that because most of this game just happens in your mind. There's not even a board that you're playing with. The game that got me into gaming, Red Dragon Inn. This is a game where the dungeon delve is over and everybody's hanging out at the bar, enjoying each other, laughing, getting drunk with their friends. Another favorite of mine is Sheriff of Nottingham. Now, this game, you're going to be talking to each other and trying to be deceptive and hide things, bluffing games. Those are great games for relators. So, yeah, play with relators. And if you need a relator in your group, give me a call. Hey, the next one, entertainers. Entertainers are fun. Boy, they have a lot of energy, and they're charismatic, and they are exhausting. But really, they're cool to have in a gaming group, but they do have some contaminating behaviors. They like to be the center of attention. And that's the problem because they can't pay attention to the actual game. If you're being told over and over again, hey, it's your turn, and your response is, oh wait, what was I supposed to do again? Yeah, you're an entertainer. They don't really pay attention to the rules very much. But they're contributing factors. They are fun and charismatic. They bring a lot of energy and creativity to your game. They like RPGs as long as they get to act out a part, but they don't really want to pay attention to the rules. My best entertainer games are Once Upon a Time. It's a card game, but it allows people to create and make up their stories and maybe even act them out a little bit. So they have a lot of fun with that kind of thing. So it's nice to have entertainers. They do bring a lot of fun to the group. Again, I'm being very general here. Don't think for a minute that organizers can't be incredibly creative. It's an organizer who actually painted the Sistine Chapel. Organizers are the people who invented and designed the board games that you probably want to play. And honestly, most people are combinations of those personality types. Like, for instance, I'm a relator entertainer, and those are pretty high on my chart. Pretty close to that is commander, and then I don't have organizer at all. If there was a basement, my organizer would be in the basement. So that might help you understand what type of games that I do like to play, knowing my personality, and what type of games that I'm going to avoid based on my personality. And you owe it to yourself to find out what kind of gamer you are and what kind of gamer your friends and family are, so that it's going to help you pick the right board game and the right group to make your game night successful. No matter what their personality type, there are some people to avoid. And I don't like the idea of excluding people from board games, but there are just some people who just don't quite fit. Among those, chiefly, angry gamers. Okay, I don't really need to say it. I don't need to explain this, do I? But angry gamers, games sort of create this situation because gaming rules and components and systems create a curiosity mode in the brain. It puts the brain into an emotional state. We're going to talk more about this next time, but that emotional state for angry gamers is not a good place. So they ruin it for everybody. So you just really want to be very careful about people who are angry at the slightest provocation. People who are not naturally curious. Well, they're not interested in games. And another unique group to avoid are people who are highly competitive. Highly competitive people love games. They like the challenge that it brings, but they're too emotionally interested in winning. They're focused on it. They're hyper-focused on winning. And if they don't win, it can get ugly. It's not pretty. These are the people I call table flippers. And you've seen the videos. They're out there. So, again, the rule of thumb here is to be sensitive. Be sensitive to your needs in the group, what your personality type is. Be sensitive to your gamers. Try to model the game night based on those personality types. You'll have a much nicer experience. The next thing you need is a game. We are here at Denton Games and Hobbies, and this is a treasure trove. You can find games of any style, any type. That's the beauty about the current board game age, is you can find a game to fit any niche. I mean, this is a racing game. It actually simulates racing really well. You like TV shows? Battlestar Galactica, one of the best games that introduces trader mechanics. Theory of Dracula, one of the most sought-after board games for a while until they did their next reprinting. If you like D&D, well, Descent will let you play a board game just like D&D, but with miniatures on the board. Everything's right in the box. There's like 100 different miniatures in here. You can find everything. Let's talk about price a little bit. Board games are going to average you anywhere from $30 to $60. Some will go higher, some are lower, but on the average you're going to spend about $40. What do you get for $40? Well, I want you to compare it to this. If I take my family out to see a movie, we're going to spend $40 to $60 easy. Ticket prices, the gas getting there, you start including drinks and snacks. I'm lucky if I can get out of there for $60. If I spend $60 on a board game, I'm making an investment. This is something that we're going to be able to play over and over again. I don't have to buy the game more than once. We're going to get hours and hours of enjoyment out of that, and with people I'm interacting with instead of sitting in a theater where you just look forward and watch other people interact on a screen. We're actually having face-to-face communication. So these are investments. Don't let the price scare you off. All right, the next thing you need is a place to play. Game stores frequently will offer you tables, places you can actually set up and play a game right here. They have board game libraries filled with games. At least this store does. There are other stores that do that. But what you're looking for is just a place to get together. So you can do this at home. You could do this even at your church, coffee shops. Restaurants can be accommodating, but sometimes they're a little too loud if you're going to play a game, or if you're playing with people like I play with, we get too loud for most of the restaurants. But the point is, just find a comfortable space that you and your friends can gather around and enjoy yourselves. If your friendly local game store doesn't have a game board library and you want to do more research about what board games might be good for you, BoardGameGeek.com, I highly recommend it. It's got everything. It's exhaustive. It's got alternate rules, information about expansions or upcoming board games you might want to check out. Also, I highly recommend the Dice Tower and Shut Up and Sit Down. Dice Tower has a lot more information, but Shut Up and Sit Down has more funny and creative videos, and it's just fun to watch those guys do what they do. So check into things, do your research before you buy. And that's all you need, really. I mean, people, a game to play, and a place to play it. And you're good to go. As I mentioned in the previous video, playing board games is a way of getting out of your digital comfort zone. And it makes you risk being vulnerable for a little while, which is really, honestly, a good thing. If you want to check out more about the science of vulnerability, check out Brené Brown and her TED Talks on vulnerability, which talk about the human conditions and desires to be accepted, to be loved, and for our desire to empathize with other people. It's amazing stuff. And what's more amazing to me is that board games will facilitate all of those things. So start checking these things out. Oh, and coffee. You need coffee or tea, or just snacks in general. You do need them, especially if you're going to play a really long game like a Twilight Imperium. That game can take up to like 8 hours to play. So yeah, you definitely need stuff like that. Twilight Imperium. I don't think I have that.